Hola muchachos, welcome! Today I just want to do a sit down talking video. If you're new to my channel, you may not know that I'm a wife. I haven't actually been married that long. I'm getting close to 4 years, but I have to say, day one of you becoming a wife, you are already learning the tools of being a good wife, learning about your husband. I remember literally like day one, or I guess day after, being married to Kieran and already realizing some of his expectations that he had for me to fulfill in his life. And realizing ways that I can better our relationship, better our life together. So even though in the grand scheme of things, I mean, Lord willing, 4 years of marriage isn't a very long time, I feel like I've learned a lot, and Lord knows, I'm still learning lots. I'm always learning about what it takes to be a good wife to your husband. So this video, I'm gonna talk about 10 things that I really do believe every wife needs to do for her husband. And like, just a disclaimer, everyone is different. Wives are all different. Husbands are different. People are put into different situations. But this is just basic stuff that I have learned as a wife. When I do these things or when I don't do these things, I see an impact in my marriage. I do want to start more of just a sit down talking wife series, just sharing about what I'm going through, what I'm doing for Kieran, and just stuff like that, because like I said, I'm always learning and there's always stuff happening in my marriage, and a lot of the time I want to share it with a lot of people, and usually I just kind of share it with some of my close friends or my sister. But here on this platform I have a huge ability, and I even would call this a huge blessing, to share what I know, to share what I've learned the hard way. I'm not a perfect wife whatsoever. You can ask Kieran that. But I literally strive every single day to be the wife that Kieran needs me to be. I hope you guys like this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and if you're a wife or soon to be married, or you've been married for like ever, let me know what's up with you down below, and let me know what you do. Just tell me one thing you do for your husband that your husband really appreciates, whether he knows it or not. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I remember growing up, even being like 4, 5, and 6, and hanging out at like family functions or church functions or groups or whatever, and I'd see a man and a woman and I would just think of them as that, and would have no idea they were actually married because they showed no signs of physical affection towards each other. I would never see them even hug or hold hands or lean into each other, or even just like sit beside each other. I encourage you as a wife that absolutely behind closed doors, touch your husband. I really do think it's important to have an intimate physical relationship with your husband, but all the more so when you're in public and when you're with people. I'm not talking about like intense PDA, because that's uncomfortable for everybody, but I mean things like sitting beside your husband, leaning into your husband, holding your husband's hand, touching your husband. It's all very important. Guys are huge into physical touch. Most guys are, and the guys that aren't don't realize how to take it in and work with it. But when you touch your husband in public, you're not just touching him and making him feel good. You're showing everyone around that, hey, this is my husband and I am crazy about him. You're giving that guy tons of self-confidence. There is nothing like being married to a very confident man. So I encourage you, embrace your husband in public. Next, I want to talk about respecting your husband. And this is a huge, huge thing that is so key to an awesome marriage relationship. Guys need respect more than anything else. They need respect more than love. That's just how guys are. That's how they're wired. So as wives, as soon as we go the opposite direction and decide to not put our trust in them, to see them as incapable, to belittle them, you're gonna find your husband being absolutely defeated. And trust me, you don't want to be married to a defeated man. That is a horrible feeling that affects you, that affects your kids if you have them, and obviously it affects him. As a husband, will make him go ahead and second guess a lot of things that don't need to be second guessed. He should have full confidence knowing my wife really respects me and she realizes who I am and my role as a husband. Wives, respect your husbands. It's biblical, it's in the Bible. And the more that I really work on respecting Kieran, the more affection I get from him, joy I just get from him in his everyday life. Respect is huge for guys. As a wife, we need to be our husband's confidant, just like they are to be ours. Guys don't spill their emotions very easily, but that one time a year when your husband needs to talk to you or just vent, or something's been on his mind and he's just going crazy, stop and listen to him and don't say anything till he's done. One of the biggest blessings a wife can do for her husband is to just listen and say, okay, or further help him out if you really feel like he needs it. And in that, what he tells you is not to be shared amongst your girlfriends or your mom or your other wife friends. He needs to know that his heart and what's on his mind and his secrets are safe with you. The more you have this attitude towards your husband, kind of pouring himself out and venting himself to you, the more he'll be willing to do it and the more trust and security he'll put into you. And that is just a huge blessing and something really exciting for a wife to have in her husband. This one is huge. Know what your husband's love language is and feed it. When I first got married to Kieran, I knew that his love language was physical touch and closeness, and I knew that mine wasn't. And it still to this day, it's not. But if I withhold anything of physical touch and closeness with Kieran, I'm not giving him what he needs. I'm not showing him his way of showing love to people, and I'm depriving him of such a huge, enormous way to show him that I love him. When I pass Kieran, I touch Kieran. If he's sitting on the couch and I have time, I'll sit on the couch next to him. If we're just walking side by side, holding Kieran or holding his hand, this makes the guy go crazy. If you don't know what the 5 love languages are, I can link some sort of an article down below, but I encourage you to find your husband's love language and absolutely fuel it on an everyday basis. On the other note, sometimes your husband needs space, especially with kids. Sometimes Kieran can come home and feel like, oh, there's stuff that needs to be done because kids are at his feet and I'm making dinner and something happened with the kids and he needs to step in. When you have the ability to give your husband space, when you really feel like he needs it and you should know, my husband needs space right now, give him space. Don't suffocate him. What I've learned with Kieran, when he comes home, if you need to shower, Kieran, go ahead and shower. Kieran, I know it's Saturday morning, go ahead and sleep in, I got the kids. Instead of always putting these expectations on him to be with us, stay close, be more involved, he works all the time too. And he needs some space just to think about nothing, which a lot of guys do, organize his thoughts, or just relax. So give your guy some space. That's not a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing if they desire that, and don't be offended if they do, because I know a lot of the time I need my space. It's healthy. It's not a bad thing. Don't stop giving. There's always points in a marriage where you feel like you're giving more or this person is giving less. Firstly, never compare what one person is giving versus the other. Focus on yourself. So as a wife, I give 110%. I literally give my all to Kieran, to the kids, in the making of the house, because we as wives, most of us are homemakers. And if I start assigning Kieran chores or telling him all this stuff he needs to do to take it off of my plate, when really I'm just saying those things because I'm going like, you're not pulling your weight or something like that, that's wrong. My heart is in the wrong place. Now, I don't think it's good for husbands to be lazy. I think they need to realize there's a need here, let me help, but give them the ability to see the need and to help, instead of you always kind of comparing, you're doing less than me, I always give more, what's the matter with you? That's another form of belittling, and that's not respecting your husband. And also remember, husbands are learning just like us, but I encourage you, instead of looking at your partner and going, they only give 50%, they give 20%, they flip and give 5%. Look at yourself and give everything you can. Absolutely, so utterly important, and I've seen that firsthand. Never stop learning about your husband, figuring him out. Never think that you've totally got your husband figured out and that's it and you're set for the rest of your life. I still have my parents coming over and be like, you would never guess what your mom did. Or like my mom, and I can even see her, your dad, aha! And they're literally still learning about each other after being married for 30+ years. Make your husband an ongoing research assignment. That way you can really cater to him, to his needs. And it's also just really fun. There's so many things that I learn about Kieran and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, how could I not know that, whether it's something really basic or something I should have figured out by now? You never know what you're gonna find out, and that is just so fun in a marriage. I encourage you as a wife to be interesting. I know that's kind of really weird, but when Kieran looks at me, Kieran doesn't look at me as just like, she's Sarah. Kieran looks at me as someone who's actually very interesting. He wants to spend time with me and he wants to ask me questions, and he's kind of always taken me on as a research assignment. Who is this woman that I've married? I like being interesting to Kieran because it makes our relationship just really fun. Being interesting can cover a number of things. Keep changing things up. Be interesting. When your husband comes home, make your home an interesting place, an exciting place to come home to. I can't say I'm the most interesting person in the world, but Kieran thinks I'm interesting, and sometimes I have to work on it, because sometimes I do feel like I get into like this weird rut. So I wouldn't say this is very pivotal or something that's extremely important, but being interesting to your husband makes a marriage just really exciting and fun. Something else, when Kieran asks, do you need help with this? Can I help you with this? 90% of the time I say, yes, please, even if I don't need it. Something beautiful about a marriage is another person willing to help another person sacrificing for another person. So even when I don't need Kieran's help, I will still say, yes, if you can help me, sweet, because 9 times out of 10, it will make my life easier. And I never want to get to that point where I've said no to him wanting to help me so many times that he no longer asks. Now, Kieran is not an acts of service type of guy in a big way. I think he does in a little bit of a way. He likes doing certain things for me. That is helpful, but I wouldn't say he's huge into that type of a love language, but he still feels somewhat defeated or little when I have a million things going on and he says, Sarah, let me help you. I want to show you that I love you. Let me help you. And I go, no. A lot of the time, I actually do need Kieran's help. And if I say no, I'm also much too confident in myself and what I can do. Accept your husband's help. And you know what? If you have a husband that doesn't really help you, and I've been there, I've totally been there, encourage them. You know what? I'm really struggling with this, and I know you're really smart at this. Can you just go ahead and get into this? And a lot of the time, the husband will want to do that for you. And when they do it, show appreciation out the wazoo. Praise your husband when he helps you, and show him affection too, and that'll give him more of a drive to help you more in the future. The last thing I want to talk about is comparing your husband. This is huge. Tons of guys and girls, but a lot of husbands already kind of deal with that self-confidence. As their wife, they need you to never show dismay towards them, to compare them to, well, this girl's husband did this, or I wish you wore outfits like that instead of like the usual clothes you wear. Why do you have to act like that? Like, my dad never acted like that with my mom. Like, don't say those things. Your husband doesn't need you to compare him to anybody, anything, any fictional character. Your husband desires your praise. And you know what? A lot of husbands, I'm sure, you have to dig really deep to find something to really praise your husband about. I encourage you to dig so deep and find something. Your husband doesn't want you to compare him to other people. Your husband wants your affirmation and your full confidence and desire to be just for him, because as soon as you start comparing him to all these other things, he's going, why are you looking at all these other things? Why are you putting so much attention to these other things? You're forgetting about me. Guys are softies too. Guys aren't these like crazy rough and tough people. They need affection and they need to be treated a certain way too. When you start comparing your husband to other things or people, again, they feel defeated and they feel really belittled. And that's another huge part of the whole respecting your husband. You are sure to have such a happier husband in marriage if instead of focusing on all the things you want him to change and comparing him, turning that around and affirming him and praising him and showing affection towards who he is instead of who he isn't. Thank you all for watching today's video. Again, these are things I'm always working on, and I'm not saying I'm always right. I know all these types of videos, I get a lot of, honestly, like hate, and I get lots of people, well, you're not in my position, you're not me, and this is just coming from me and what I've learned. This is just stuff that I've learned. This is stuff that my mom has taught me. This is stuff that I've learned from ladies that went on before me. And again, if you have anything you want to share, please leave it in the comment section down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!